Chairman. Friends, allow me to congratulate the Hindu Public Center for this very difficult initiative. It is a very challenging initiative, a very courageous initiative in a highly surcharged and polarized environment with passions roused. But I think it's necessary. My good friend Mr. Raghav said it's probably premature, but I believe it's actually necessary to have this continuing dialogue. Unless the media houses and individuals and scholars of credibility are willing to put their neck on the line and look at a very viable set of options to resolve this enormous crisis engulfing Telugu-speaking people, we will not come out of it. So thank you for this. Politics is the art of reconciliation of conflicting interests. This is true everywhere in the world. This is particularly necessary in a very diverse, very complex country like ours. Unfortunately, because this political process has failed, in the quest for the short-term political gain, the parties have played an extremely dangerous game over the years, and therefore we have now this crisis. As a result, there is this immovable object and irresistible force in conflict, and things will not end well unless something yields, unless we find some way to reconcile these conflicting interests. I believe a solution or a set of solutions is possible given goodwill. Nothing is intractable. Our federal system and our constitution provide adequate flexibility to be able to institutionalize mechanisms to address all the concerns and protect all legitimate interests. I am particularly intrigued by the expression used, dealing with the costs of division. I think it's an important thing. Whether the state now remains united or it's divided, there are costs, because things have now come beyond a point. The issue now is, how do we minimize the costs and maximize the gains? Because there are no gains alone and no cost situation today, because the stage is past long back. And therefore, my appeal to the Hindu Center and the scholars and the concerned people is, we require to do a very serious analysis of the costs and benefits of each of the options on the table. I'm not coming out with any set of answers now, partly because I don't have answers, partly because even if you have answers now, I have enough of experience to realize that the last thing you should do is simply blurt them out. Therefore, I will only lay the ground rules. Let us examine the costs and benefits of the various options on the table. The basic principle in resolving the issue and in reconciling the conflicting interests is, if on the fundamental issue of division of the state, one view prevails, then you must go out of the way to address the concerns of those whose view has not prevailed. If there is a cake, if two parties have to share that, if party A has the power to cut the cake and also decide which piece to take, then party B will always be at a loss. Therefore, if party A has the say in dividing the cake, party B must get the first piece. In this case, if the state is to remain united, the first issues to be addressed are those of the people who are opposed to unity. If the state is to be divided, the first issues to be addressed are those who are opposed to division. Otherwise, you cannot bring about any kind of reconciliation in a very complex society, nor can you really sustain democratic polity, because by force, by sometimes even by brute numbers, you may be able to prevail today, but eventually the fabric of unity of India will be undermined somewhat irreparably. The second issue is, once the basic issue is decided, any other issue, nothing must be allowed to become a deal breaker. You cannot continue to say, this is a deal breaker. Now, next step, this is a deal breaker. Then you are guaranteeing that there is discord and strife. There must be some discipline, some basic, it's almost a moral issue. In a society, if you want to coexist, we cannot take 25 inflexible positions. You can take one inflexible position. After that, you have to allow any issue to be flexible, a fair deal to be arrived at. And there are two things before I come to the list of 5 issues. I will list them, Mr. Chairman. One is, if we talk about structures, should Hyderabad be union territory or not union territory? Should something else be this way or that way? Then you can never solve a problem. It is like a patient going to a doctor and saying, doctor, please do a coronary artery bypass. The patient's concern is, look, these are my problems. I have this chest pain, I have breathlessness, I have something else. Please address this problem to my satisfaction. Now, how the doctor addresses is not something the patient should really ask about. Therefore, the debate about a particular structure or a formula is absolutely dangerous in the public domain. The real issue is, what are the legitimate interests, legitimate concerns in each segment of the large range of issues that are now plaguing the polity. We have to list them and see whether these can be adequately addressed, and which particular formula addresses most of the concerns. Nothing addresses all concerns. Ultimately, you have to take a call, a judgment call, as to which addresses most of the concerns, and therefore some amount of compromise is going to be necessary in any kind of formula. The second is, again, I agree with Mr. Raghavulu, we require a platform. Right now, it's all dealt with as a national ruling party's private issue. It's almost like an emperor giving a diktat to the vassals, and there's nothing like a national polity, a national framework to resolve issues, or even a platform to actually air the grievances and reconcile the seemingly irreconcilable issues. And I'll come to quickly the 5 issues. 1, Hyderabad. I'll just list them. Hyderabad cannot be ignored as an issue simply because 40% of the GSDP of Andhra Pradesh is centered around Hyderabad and surrounding region. About 300,000 crores is the GSDP created in this city annually. Even today's newspapers, quite by accident. No, I'm only listing this one point, of course. 200,000 crores of additional investments in Hyderabad. Even now, nobody in Delhi had the sense to say, let's do it in all of Andhra Pradesh. In the context of Andhra Pradesh, we can't put all things in one basket of Hyderabad to create more animosity. Let's do it across the state. Even that wisdom, even today, that is what is so amazing to me. The Hindu is talking about reconciliation, but the government of India is not talking of reconciliation. The Union Cabinet, they may say, look, the papers have come to us, therefore we have never routinely done it. But even today, the Union Cabinet doesn't have the political sagacity and wisdom and good sense and foresight to realize that today, if I do put everything in Hyderabad alone, this is going to create more problem. That is a challenge. The economic security, the revenue surplus of Hyderabad and deficit of both the regions, both the states, if these 2 states are formed, I'm listing issues. The educational opportunities in limited sense, in 90% cases there's no problem, but in some cases like super specialties, there is no other opportunity outside of Hyderabad. Therefore, at least for some time, opportunities available to everybody and status quo to prevail. And political representation in a city and a region where a significant section, in Hyderabad city, about 40% people are migrants from other regions. In Telangana, about 20 to 25% are migrants from other regions of Andhra Pradesh. And therefore, there are legitimate political stakes apart from economic stakes. The second issue, much more complex issue not discussed here, is Rayalaseema. Rayalaseema is the most backward of all the regions of Andhra Pradesh. 4 districts, 14 million population, no coastline, no rainfall, no industrialization. And that region feels genuinely orphaned. And if we do not address this problem once and for all, after 5 years, Yogendra, you're going to have another crisis in Andhra Pradesh, Telugu speaking people. There's going to be another massive agitation, another strife. And if we don't foresee that, if we simply pretend that there is a solution by dividing the state today and over, we are mistaken. We have to address that challenge and find an answer. Third one, whatever we do, the trade and commerce barrier should not be there between the 2 or 3 states that may be formed. And finally, at the end of the day, whether one state remains or 2 or 3 states are formed, if status quo prevails in the nature of the polity, this high degree of centralization of power, everything is centered around the chief minister, there is no local government, and capital becomes also the economic, educational, cultural center of everything, all sources of authority and legitimacy, and nothing else matters. And if corruption continues, and corruption, Andhra Pradesh is, whatever be our strengths, weaknesses, we are somewhere up there in corruption.
Yeah.
And if rule of law continues to be a casualty, then it does not matter. Therefore, this crisis must give us an opportunity to look at these things so that a future for all the contending regions can be built on the basis of something better than what is today.